Thank you for joining us today. What's at stake with your steak? A deep dive into the anti-inflammatory response in food. So, just another in the series, like I said, with the HSC Nutritional Sciences students. We have Emily, Liz, and Diane with us today to share some great information. Really excited to hear what they have today.
Okay, we'll go ahead and get started. So first we have some objectives for today. So we're going to define inflammation, anti-inflammatory and chronic inflammation. We're going to also describe the importance of inflammation in the human body and what that means for disease states. And we're also going to be able to differentiate between inflammatory and anti-inflammatory foods. And then we're going to also touch on some oxidative stress and its role in inflammation. And then we're going to identify sources, components, and benefits of these anti inflammatory foods. And then lastly, we're going to list 5 main components found in pro inflammatory diet. So, just a disclaimer first off is there is no good or bad food. Food is fuel. We want to emphasize that some foods have more nutritious values than others, and diets rely on personal circumstance and preferences. So, by no means are we saying that don't eat any candy at lunch. You can have everything in moderation, and there's no such thing as a good thing. If I eat 1,000 calories in apples, I still overate by 1,000 calories in apples. So we just want to make sure that we've covered those bases. Okay, and then we will get started. So we're going to ask just a couple of questions just starting off. If you guys want to drop some answers in the chat, we can see it. We pulled it up. So question 1 is, have you heard of anti-inflammatory food? Okay, so got some yeses, some no, just one. Okay. Couple no's, couple yeses, couple thumbs up. Okay, perfect. And we will dive more into it, clear up some confusion. Okay, so question 2 is, what does anti-inflammatory mean to you, especially for those yeses? Right. Pain in the body, okay. Or any foods that you might think that are anti-inflammatory? Mm-hmm. Good, reduction of inflammation. Seen a lot of that. Okay, perfect. So we're off to a good start. Doesn't cause me to feel stiff and uncomfortable after eating. Yes, good. Okay. So let's go ahead and get started. Some of you are on the right track, and we'll talk about what inflammation is. And I'll hand it over to Liz.
Hi, everyone. Okay, so basically, inflammation is just a normal response to injury or infection. As we said, it's essential for the body. So we do need inflammation to combat disease. It's how your immune system kind of kicks in and fights those diseases. All processed foods can actually cause inflammation. So we have normal bacteria that reside in our gut. So with these processed foods, as inflammation increases, it alters the bacteria in our gut, and this can be problematic. It can affect our long-term health and lead to chronic inflammation, which we'll talk about. And then it also has potential for adverse health outcomes later on. So why is this important? Well, if we have inflammation, we can increase our severity of symptoms. So a range of diseases that you might already be dealing with, like type 2 diabetes, arthritis, asthma, psoriasis, obesity, those symptoms that are already affiliated with those diseases can just be exacerbated. It can also increase cancer risk. And as we stated here, per the National Cancer Institute, inflammation can create DNA damage that may actually lead to cancer. So it increases risk. And then the role in the body, like we said earlier, inflammation is important. It is your natural defense mechanism. But like anything, if you have anything imbalanced, it can cause issues later on if it's exacerbated. So it can lead to further complications. So oxidative stress, this is a big key mechanism that is occurring in inflammation. So different free radicals are basically produced. This is a lot of like scientific terminology in here, but basically what's going on is you are kind of altering your DNA, you're putting it under stress, and that can cause a bunch of different mechanisms like mutations and deletions, a bunch of genetic issues. And then, yeah, oxidative stress in the diet. This can be sourced from having too many carbs, too many fats, specifically from animal sources, because this is an increase in saturated fat. So mostly we'll find our saturated fat in those animal sources. And then processed foods. There are radicals that are produced from eating these foods, and this can promote that inflammatory response. And then, like we said earlier, leading to that chronic inflammation and out of balance. So chronic inflammation, by definition, it's a consistent sense of feeling pressured and overwhelmed over a long period of time. So these can range from symptoms such as aches and pains, lack of sleep, feeling weak, not really socializing as much with your friends and family, and then just losing your focus within thinking. So some ways that we can think to start reducing inflammation are just modifying our lifestyles, just short, sustainable changes, managing our stress that we feel every day, and then managing our oxidative stress just through altering our diet and removing some of those key things like processed foods and saturated fats. So inflammatory foods, like we said earlier, processed foods. So this can include fast food, packaged foods, really anything in the middle of the grocery store that you can, like canned foods, they're adding all these things to sustain its preserving of the food, such as candy, microwavable dinners in the frozen section. And then you have red meat, so those animal sources we were talking about. So like high fat beef, lamb, poultry with the skin on. Poultry with skin off is actually a leaner type of meat. And then we have our saturated and trans fats. So that's high fat cheeses and high fat dairy and ice cream. And then we also have our added sugars. So sugar sweetened beverages, fruit juices, dairy desserts, candy. And again, we're not saying that we need to cut all of these out of our diet. The goal is to just have a balance. And maybe if you're having one of these foods, incorporate a different food like apples or something that is maybe anti-inflammatory, which we'll get into what those foods are as well.
Okay, so this is where we're going to play a little bit of a game. We'll incorporate the chat again. So we'll have two pictures on the screen. So you'll type left or right for which one is more pro-inflammatory, the ones that my lovely partner just talked about. Okay, so we've got soda or strawberries. So left for soda, right for strawberries. Good, everyone's getting left. Yeah. Woohoo, we got there. Cool. Perfect. Next one, we'll do cheeseburger and fries for left, or chicken, veggies, and mashed potatoes for right. Perfect. And it is left. Yes. So the reasons why it is left is because the cheeseburger is filled with higher fat meat. That dairy, it's going to be a higher fat cheese, as well as the fries, which are going to be made in oil and fried and all the yummy stuff, but not in this case. And then you do have a little bit of gray area with the mashed potatoes being in there. That was kind of thrown in there to kind of try to throw you off, but these are the softball ones. This is making me hungry. Yes, for sure. Okay, so it is left. And last one is left for avocado toast or right for coffee and donuts. So which one is more pro-inflammatory? And everyone's getting right. Yes, because of those donuts are going to be highly processed. There's going to be a lot of sugar. Coffee, normally people put a lot of sugar or creamer in there. And then you've got your avocado toast, which is filled with leaner meat. That's, I'm assuming when I picked this, that was supposed to be salmon. And then avocados, of course, which are all going to be good, healthy fats. Okay, we will move on into anti-inflammatory response.
Okay, and with anti-inflammatory, there are certain mechanisms that will help with this. So we have regulation of cytokines, nitric oxide, interleukins, and many more. And Cytokines are just proteins secreted by the cells in response to infection, injury, or inflammation. So some foods can reduce inflammation by influencing cytokine production in the gut. So as goes back to that gut microbiota. Phytochemicals are found in fruit and vegetables and abundant in various antioxidants. So phytochemicals are naturally occurring in plants, and these will help to fight free radicals in the body, as well as antioxidants, and reduce damage from oxidation. They will neutralize these harmful molecules. So vitamin A, C, and E, such as that. And the disease prevention, many studies show lower risk of diabetes, cancer, etc. for anti-inflammatory foods. So what are the benefits? There are natural antioxidants, like we said, vitamin C and E, that will remove superoxides and protect lipids from free radical damage. Carotenoids and flavonoids are a phytochemical that will capture free radicals and protect the quality of your neurons. It says here, studies show connection between carotenoids and reduced cancer risk. And for flavonoids, it's associated with decreasing incidence of cancer and heart disease when consumed regularly. So here are some of our anti-inflammatory foods. You have fruits such as berries, citrus fruits as oranges and avocado. You have nuts and whole grains, almonds, walnuts, high fiber grains, and oatmeal. So this is going to be a lot of plant-based like fiber. And then white meat, fish, and healthy fats. So like salmon, olive oil, tuna, trout. Vegetables such as green leafy vegetables and how do you say the word cruciferous? Yes, yeah. Such as broccoli and like cauliflower. Okay.
Then we did have a question. We'll have any handouts to send. I think we're sending the slides later on. Yeah. So they will be provided at the end or a follow-up. So these are some myths and facts about inflammation or anti-inflammatory foods, is that gluten is inflammatory. We hear that all the time. No, unless you have an allergy such as celiac disease, gluten does not need to be avoided in your diet. Like we've said a couple times today, everything in moderation and a balanced diet is going to be the most important part to start on the track to be more healthy. And foods with gluten, such as or like whole wheat, are going to have vitamins and nutrients that are really important, such as fiber, B vitamins, and iron, which are very, very important for your overall health. Another myth is that all sweet foods cause inflammation. It is recommended to lower the intake from sugars or added sugars, such as from sweetened beverages and packaged foods. But again, moderation is key. Every now and then, a cupcake is not going to break the bank. So we do like to keep them in our diet, so they're not inherently bad. We just want to limit our intake. And last one is an anti-inflammatory diet means low carb. No. Like the first one, gluten is not to be avoided. Complex carbohydrates, such as that whole wheat I was talking about, have a lot of benefits, especially fiber and soluble fiber, which is really important for your gut health. And as we're learning through more studies and more science that's being produced, is that your gut and the state of your gut is really a key indicator of your overall health. So we want to make sure we take care of that. Okay, so we're going to play this game one more time, but this time we're going to do left or right for which one is more anti-inflammatory. Okay, so we've got a buffalo ranch salad for left, or butternut squash and feta for right. So which one is more anti-inflammatory? Good, everyone's saying right, a couple left. So a reason that the answer is the right, the butternut squash and feta, is because that buffalo ranch salad has a lot of ranch and a lot of dressing, which has a lot of saturated fat. So you're going to increase your fat with that salad. And if you actually look on a lot of restaurants or even some fast food chains that offer salads, they can actually be or have more calories in them than just their normal like chicken sandwich. So that butternut squash and feta, it's going to be, feta is a really good cheese. You're going to have a lot of variety in color. You're getting those carotenoids and flavonoids with that right salad. Okay, so we've got Italian chicken zucchini skillet or the steak bowl with avocado, grilled veggies, and rice. So which one is going to be more anti-inflammatory? This one's meant to be a little bit more tricky. Okay, so we've got some left, we got some right. It's about 50-50. A little bit more left. So the answer is the left skillet. And the reason is going to be the meat choice. Is on the right, you have steak, which is going to be higher in saturated fat. It's that animal protein versus you've got skinless chicken on the left with more of a tomato base sauce. So you're getting more variety in those colors and more saturated fat on the right. Good, everyone did really well with those. Okay, and so we're getting towards the end, and we wanted to put this in here to show you the difference of what those diets that we just talked about, as the areas in red, which you see the United States is a part of, have mostly a pro-inflammatory diet, which includes refined grains and sugars, so like white bread is an example, red and processed meats, high-fat dairy, high salt consumption, and artificial sweetened drinks are going to be a main incorporation of that diet. And then you see in those blue and green and purple areas, those are going to be more anti-inflammatory, but we see a push for more healthier options for fat, especially olive oils, fruits and vegetables, and then more local fish are going to be more incorporated into those diets, which have been shown to be more of those anti-inflammatory foods that we just talked about. Okay, so we are at our questions point. So if you have any questions, we'd love to hear from you. If you want to drop them in the chat, we will do our best to answer them. Is rice inflammatory? So gluten is not going to be, or any rice really, going to be inherently inflammatory. It's kind of in that middle gray area. Rice is often recommended for anti-inflammatory diets, but the glycemic index varies depending on the type of rice. So it really kind of depends. Are you having whole wheat rice? Are you having just plain bleached rice? Are you having jasmine? That more depends on the grain that you're talking about. So you can get a higher fiber rice option, and that would help your gut health by adding in more fiber than having like a white rice. Yeah, do you have that one? What is bulgur or a good replacement for fish?
There's another question that said, what's a good replacement for fish? So like we said, any lean meat. So depending on if you're vegetarian or vegan, this could depend, but picking meats or just proteins that are, it really depends on the individual's diet. So if someone would eat meat, having, like we said, the skinless chicken would be like a good option. There are a lot of good oils and nutrients in fish that you would want to kind of find elsewhere. So that is kind of a in-depth question. But yeah, other proteins. So like eggs, even like egg whites within balance, like that could be a good replacement. And then making sure that, you get those oils from the fishes. And there's, a lot of resources to look up where you can find those same nutrients that you find in fish. But in terms of anti-inflammatory, really any lean protein. I don't know if that answers your question. It really depends on a specific diet. Yeah, and then we had bulgur wheat. Like we said, that is a wheat product. So gluten is not anti-inflammatory, or it's not inflammatory. Let's see. Yeah, bulgur, I think, yeah, it's a good source of protein, fiber, and vitamins. So those are all good for anti-inflammation. which is good.
Okay, and then we have our pre-made protein drinks inflammatory, like Premier Protein. I'm not familiar with Premier Protein, but this would be a part where you really want to look at your label and look for those added sugars. That is what's going to be making it more pro-inflammatory than anything else. It being a protein drink isn't inherently making it inflammatory. That would be a good option if the added sugars were lower in that specific drink that you're looking at. So when you look at a label, you'll see where it says total carbohydrates. Below it, it'll say it's how many grams of added sugar. And that's what we want to limit for an anti-inflammatory diet. Do you want to take this one? We say how to improve gut health. They were a little late and discussed already. You want to take that one?
Okay. So we talked about gut health with antioxidants and phytochemicals. That's really going to help your gut. So any fruits, vegetables. We're learning a lot about fermented food. That is also good for your gut health.
Fiber.
Oh yes, and fiber.
Yes. So I think Donna asked, can you replace bulgur for rice replacement? Yeah, that would be a good option to increase your fiber intake. We want to get close to 25 to 28 grams a day is the recommendation. So that would be a great way to replace if you want something a little bit more nutritiously dense. And then tofu and beans. Yes, so those are a great source from a plant-based protein. Those are going to be low in fats as well. I think next week they're actually giving a talk about plant-based proteins. If you're more interested in that as well, they'll be able to answer a little bit more questions about that. But those would also be a way to beef up your meals. If you wanted to have a more or an animal protein, such as steak, for an example, you could combine it with beans in your salad. You would get more protein, and you can limit your intake from animal sources. Do we have any other questions? I think we got them, the ones that were asked.
Those are great questions.
Those were great questions.
Yeah, it looks like from what I could tell that you guys got through all of those that I've seen come through. And I think this just goes to show sometimes it can be tricky navigating through nutrition overall and how important, being able to tap in utilizing registered dietitians, how important and what a benefit they can be to help us get to our overall health and wellness goals. And some of the stuff that can be a little confusing and help put a game plan together. So really appreciate you guys. And, looks like we have some very great registered dietitians that we'll have soon on the horizon. So maybe we'll be meeting with you guys whenever you have finalized your RD certifications.
Thank you.
Excellent. Yeah, so we'll go ahead, hang out just a little bit longer, but thank you guys so much. Like I said, I'll be sending a follow-up email to attendees with the recording of the workshop, as well as the slides. And if the ladies have any other resources to share, we can include those in the follow-up email as well. So thank you all so much.
Thank
Thank you.